What role do you think it's possible Christian Combs could play in his father's criminal case?
The government loves superseding indictments. The government loves indicting your relatives. Why? Nothing is worse. Right now, Diddy's sitting in a jail cell. What could be worse? The thought of your son also sitting in a jail cell.
I think that if we're talking about additional charges and additional defendants, those are probably two of the more likely. And Christian, of course, was the subject of a civil lawsuit where there was a sexual allegation naming him directly.
The government in this indictment presented evidence alleging that Sean Combs was running a criminal enterprise, and they actually named it in the indictment, the Combs Enterprise.
The whole courtroom in Los Angeles froze when the defense dropped a bomb claiming Christian Combs had underage guests at those infamous freak-offs. The energy in the room flipped in seconds. Cameras started flashing non-stop as Christian slowly stood up, his face pale as a ghost, then backed away from the table and dipped. No goodbye, no explanation, nothing. He didn't glance at his lawyers. He didn't flinch. He just walked out like the walls were caving in. This wasn't some random exit. It screamed panic mode. Reporters were locked in, chasing the moment like bloodhounds. And why? Because those accusations hit different. The second the words minors and yacht parties came out of that lawyer's mouth, it shifted everything. All the past headlines suddenly looked small compared to what was just said. Christian wasn't just protecting his name, he was trying to stop a full-on scandal from blowing up. Even worse, the moment wasn't about legal strategy anymore. This was straight-up damage control.
I didn't hear about that raid. I only heard about the LA and Miami raid. But you feel like the feds, they released that video over King Combs' comments.
Oh man, I've worked in law enforcement for 27 years, and I had the opportunity to see HIDA. It's a place, whereas they have the state, the feds, the NYPD, the Department of Corrections, and the state police. Yo, this place could be half of a basketball court. That's where they just got lines of computers with officers of all different people and officers just on the internet. Whoever's over that case, whoever's working that case, don't you know they saw that and took it to their...
To back it all up, Christian's lawyer pulled out transcripts from secret audio clips, actual recordings. These tapes, captured by a producer in a makeshift yacht studio, caught a young woman named Grace O'Marquez saying she was hit on. Then, things got aggressive after some tequila shots she swears were spiked. Grace wasn't some random party goer. She was hired as a steward for what she thought was a chill family trip on a yacht Sean Diddy Combs chartered in late December 2022. But what she walked into was total chaos. She says it was wild partying around the clock, women who looked like paid escorts coming and going, and cocktails so strong folks were dropping after just one sip.
In a new lawsuit, Sean Diddy Combs' second son, Christian Combs, is accused of sexually assaulting a crew member working on a super yacht. That suit was filed here in Los Angeles. Attorneys representing former yacht stewardess Grace O'Marquez say she was sexually assaulted on board a yacht when she was 25 years old in December of 2022 by Diddy's son, rapper Christian Combs. They say his dad, Sean Combs, leased the yacht and had full control of its staff and the premises. O'Marquez's lawyers say Combs turned what was sold as a wholesome family excursion into a hedonistic environment. They stated, quote, defendant Sean Combs fostered and encouraged an environment of debauchery. There was always a party atmosphere filled with suspected sex workers, suspected laced alcohol, violence, and sheer disrespect of women and the yacht's crew. The lawsuit also contains photos of bruises that O'Marquez's lawyers say she suffered when Christian Combs violently grabbed her and attempted to force her to perform a sex act. They also included a transcript of an audio recording which they say captures O'Marquez being forced to consume suspected lace shots of tequila.
Says Christian showed up to that yacht already wasted, pressured her into taking tequila shots, then started groping her, touching her legs and her chest, and even tried to force something way worse. It didn't stop there. She says she managed to fight him off and ran, but he wasn't done focusing.
Focusing on Christian Combs. O'Marquez says that Christian Combs had been staying at a villa on the shore, but that he would come onto the yacht in the evening to party. And on December 28, 2022, Christian reportedly arrived very intoxicated and then proceeded to pressure O'Marquez to take shots of tequila. She did, Christian allegedly tried to get her to drink more in the yacht's makeshift studio. O'Markey alleges that Christian kissed her neck, kissed her face, as he groped her legs, breasts, and private areas. O'Markey reportedly told Christian, quote, "Excuse me, you don't touch my legs like that. I'll move my legs where I want to. If I want to do this, then I will. You don't touch my legs like that." O'Markey then says that she told Christian she couldn't stay with him unless it was approved by a supervisor, all of whom she knew would be asleep at the time. So this was a way for her to get out of the situation. She claims that Christian said, "Who can I talk to? I'm going to say I requested you right now." O'Markey then says she responded with, quote, "Well, you can take your hand off my ass for the first thing."
He followed her to the yacht's movie room, which doubled as a sleeping area, blocked the door, and came at her again. It wasn't until someone finally stepped in that it stopped. After that, everything spiraled. Grace's lawsuit says she was left battling panic attacks, dark thoughts, and eating disorder, and even started having seizures. She backed it up with photos showing bruises on her arm, plus those chilling audio recordings. All of it got filed in court when she sued both Combs men for sexual assault, harassment, emotional trauma, and failing to keep her safe. All right,
so I want to bring on right now criminal defense attorney Mauricio Padilla, friend of the show. He's represented some very high-profile defendants in high-profile cases. Good to see you once again. So I don't think we've had a chance to talk about this lawsuit, and now that the news is reporting that Christian has been served with papers here, why is that significant?
Well, it's significant because anytime that they have the opportunity to continue to remind the public of the malfeasance of Diddy, of Diddy's son, of anything related to sexually inappropriate behavior, sexual assault, it helps. It helps the government continue to, lay out the narrative of how bad Diddy was, how bad Diddy's son was. So I think it's consistent with, what they've been doing, putting it out there and really destroying his character. I'm not saying that he didn't do anything to deserve it. I'm saying it's consistent with what they're doing, whether it's the government or the lawyers that are suing.
Inside that courtroom, Grace's lawyer, Tyrone Blackburn, came in swinging, no time wasted. He walked jurors through the audio clips, breaking down how the drinks were allegedly laced with GHB and other heavy-hitting date rape drugs. Then he dropped a shocker, hinting there were more recordings out there, and he was ready to fight tooth and nail to get them played in court. And then came the twist. He straight up claimed the Combs brothers had a history of joining in or helping run these so-called freak-offs with minors involved. Christian's lawyer, Aaron Dyer, fired back fast, calling the lawsuit filthy and fake and swearing he'd file a motion to get it tossed. But here's the kicker. These claims are backed.
So O'Markey, Jones taped this event with her. Yes, the lawsuit provides transcripts of audio recordings, and these audio recordings purportedly show, or you can hear, kissing sounds, her telling Combs not to touch her, her allegedly asking about whether she was drugged. Now, we haven't heard these tapes here on Law and Crime yet, but if they are what they purport to be, that is a huge piece of evidence. And remember, when we're talking a civil case, when we're talking lawsuits, the burden of proof is much lower than a criminal case. It's just preponderance of the evidence, more likely than not that this happened.
In his detailed lawsuit, Lil Rod came out swinging. He called out Justin Combs directly, accusing him of bringing in underage girls and adult workers to private gatherings. One piece of evidence is a photo allegedly showing Justin with a young woman believed to be underage and involved in that scene, according to the lawsuit.
In his lengthy lawsuit, Lil Rod straight name drops Justin Combs, describing him as someone who solicits prostitutes, underage girls, and sex workers. There's actually a picture of Justin Combs with an allegedly underage girl shown in the lawsuit. Now, in this specific instance, Lil Rod alleges at least one underage girl came to Diddy's home for a listening party. A sex worker was also apparently solicited, and a freak-off ensued. As an aside, this is the same night that Lil Rod alleges Diddy forced him to take a laced shot. He started to feel lightheaded and then woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning, naked next to a sex worker. It's important to note Justin Combs is listed as a defendant on this case because, according to Lil Rod, he facilitated Diddy's alleged RICO enterprise and at times participated
In one particular claim, Lil Rod says a girl who wasn't of legal age showed up at Diddy's house for what was supposed to be a music listening party, but he says an adult worker was also brought in. And what followed was another wild freak off. Lil Rod also claims that same night Diddy allegedly forced him to take a shot he believes was drugged. He says he started feeling out of it, blacked out, and woke up at 4 a.m. naked next to a woman he didn't consent to being with just in consent. Just mentioned, he's named as a defendant because, according to Lil Rod, he helped run Diddy's alleged operation and even took part in it at times.
I think that if we're talking about additional charges and additional defendants, those are probably two of the more likely. And Christian, of course, was the subject of a civil lawsuit where there was a sexual allegation naming him directly. So I think if we're going to cast a bit of a wider net, people are talking about family members, other celebrities, maybe some employees like Christian Forum, but I think the most likely would be those two sons.
Why do you think it's the most likely about those two? Just because of the recordings, the allegations against him? What are you thinking?
I think so. I think obviously they're just civil allegations and those cases are going to be put on hold while the criminal case plays out. But, there is some smoke there. And obviously, there's a presumption of innocence and there's a lower standard in a civil case. But you have someone who's been named directly as someone who participated in a sexual assault. And everything else has been rumors and speculation. But here you at least have one there.
So what were these so-called freak-offs really about, prosecutors say? This wasn't some wild house party, it was way more twisted according to the Manhattan indictment. These were full-on stage sex shows allegedly organized by Diddy himself with backup from his own sons. These events weren't just spontaneous chaos, they were carefully planned out. The indictment claims that some guests, including underage individuals, were allegedly forced into drug-fueled acts while cameras were rolling, and it doesn't stop with Diddy. The lawsuit names both of the Combs brothers as active participants. They're accused of recruiting underage girls, passing out cash, stocking the spots with party supplies, and even helping film the whole thing right beside.
I believe it was Justin, Diddy, and G walked into the bathroom. Gunshots rang out. Little Rod woke up so scared. Justin and Diddy left. Little Rod went in the bathroom, saw G out all over the place, literally called the ambulance, carried him out. It was carnage and everything, put him in the ambulance. The police showed up. Little Rod cited that in his lawsuit, and then they asked for the LAPD's report. The LAPD just released an 18-page report with no mention of any carnage or anyone.
The charges surrounding Christian's case just got even darker on September 16, 2024. A Manhattan grand jury hit Diddy with a major indictment for racketeering, trafficking, and a string of serious offenses. Prosecutors say he didn't just throw wild parties, they claim he manipulated women, some reportedly as young as 9, into taking part in freak-offs with paid male workers using drugs to keep them under control, and recorded everything. Diddy's entire empire.
I believe to be one of P. Diddy's freak-offs.
Now, singer-songwriter Tania Wallace told TMZ's Harvey Levin for the Tubi special, The Downfall of Diddy, Inside the Freak-Offs, she believes she witnessed underage victims at one of Diddy's 2018 parties.
I'm looking like, are those midgets? Because people were it's people over them, like it's people trying to hide what they're doing.
Adults who are little people, or are you talking about minors?
Am I going to get in trouble? I don't want to say I witnessed any of that crazy stuff, but we all have common sense. Little people that's not supposed to be there.
You're talking about underage people.
It's a shame.
Is this woman, Tania, is she really saying that there were minors involved in these freak-offs?
That is exactly what she's saying.
She's saying, Billy, in March 2025, Homeland Security agents launched full-blown raids on Diddy's homes in Los Angeles, Miami, and New York. They snatched up electronics, firearms, party logs, and even a shocking amount of lubricant during the Miami raid. Christian was actually cuffed at his father's LA mansion and taken in for questioning. But no charges were filed, and he walked out free. Diddy's legal team tried to spin it.
Whole public relations side of this, Diddy is going to want to put up a front of an innocent person. And sometimes The best defense is a good offense. Right now, investigators are going through the evidence that they seized. What they're really looking for are videos of the alleged sexual abuse. If prosecutors have that information, we're talking about days or weeks before Diddy is charged. He may go to prison for the rest of his life.
Christian was carving out his own lane, trying to step out from under Diddy's massive shadow. His track Can't Stop, Won't Stop made waves on the R&B charts back in 2022. And he even launched his own high-end sneaker brand, Younger Luxury. He was showing serious hustle, but now every headline ties Christian Combs straight to controversy. They have to control
the narrative and do their best to control the narrative. And frankly, that's her right. If she has that data, that to do what she wants. I don't think it helped the situation. I don't think it helped her son or Sean Diddy. I think it may have just, you still have human beings you're dealing with on both sides of the table. And basically kind of amping this up, I don't think that solves anything for anybody. Also, it's a matter of, is the public going to be sympathetic to a billionaire and, his problems and his issues? This isn't something that happened, in an unfortunate instance in a lower socioeconomic area of Los Angeles or New York or Cleveland. This is in Hollywood with a $50 million mansion with luxury cars out front, and dealing with a billionaire. And then they had another one in Miami. I don't think the American people or the public are like having a whole lot of sympathy for anybody, right?
Social media lit up. His comments got flooded. Some fans stood by him, others dragged him, and a few were straight up demanding he speak on camera, but Christian kept quiet, sticking strictly to what his lawyers put out. Still, that silence, especially after walking out of court like that, spoke loud to the public. And in the court of public opinion, silence can be just as loud as a confession.
Upgraded from my last whore. I'm Risha and Joy. And I ain't tripping if you dip it, enjoy it.
Set and right.
I was locked 23 and 1.
And 1.
Now I ball like 23
and 1. And 1.
Oh, check under that shit and all that.
Right now he getting practice shots.
You know what I'm saying?
He getting practice shots because we got the legend in the building.
Yeah, you already know what it is, man.
Christian Combs. King, the one and only.
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna get right into it though. Music. That's good.
Yeah, I got my new music, Legacy, dropping. It's about to be crazy.
When is dropping? Let us know. Let us know some exclusive
info. On the 15th, October 15th. Right. When you see this, it might be out.
Nah, you gonna see it tomorrow. He working hard. This dropping tomorrow.
And Cardi's dropping soon. It's gonna be a visual.
But I keep it real. Ever since we've been in LA like 4 years, we've been running to you, like hearing that, see you grow, like from developing like artists to like just being cool. At first we met you, like we just knew you was cool. Then you start dropping music.
Next up in Christian's legal storm, a motion to dismiss his attorney Aaron Dyer is going hard, claiming Grace's lawsuit doesn't hold water. He says there's no metadata on the audio files, no guest logs confirming minors were present, and no solid proof the tequila was laced. If the judge agrees, Grace might never even make it to trial.
Role do you think it's possible Christian Combs could play in his father's criminal case?
The government loves superseding indictments. The government loves indicting your relatives. Why? Nothing is worse. Right now, Diddy's sitting in a jail cell. What could be worse? The thought of your son also sitting in a jail cell. So if they can prove it and they have him committing crimes and they can involve him in a superseding indictment, I don't see why they wouldn't. They do it all the time in narco cases and in other cases that I've worked on. And it seems to me like Diddy wasn't or never created these broad defined lines between his children and the alleged illegal acts that he was committing. So it's completely possible that they could get wrapped up in a superseding.
Could get wrapped up in a superseding, but if Tyrone Blackburn can convince the court there's enough smoke to chase the fire, then things could explode. Discovery would kick in, forcing both sides to cough up emails guessed, lists, yacht records, and make people testify under oath. That process could stretch on for years, dragging Christian's name through nonstop media coverage, and that moment he stormed out of court, it's not going away. It's just the start of a long, messy spotlight.
Diddy and Christian's attorney said this complaint is filled with manufactured lies and irrelevant facts, adding, "We will be filing a motion to dismiss this outrageous claim." The new lawsuit comes as Diddy's former bodyguard, Gene Deal, spoke out on the Art of Dialogue YouTube channel, making new claims about Diddy's notoriously wild parties.
People know there's drugs, there's alcohol, there's loose women, there's loose men, all kind of crazy. I don't think it's only celebrities going to be shook. He had politicians in there. He had princes in there. He also had a couple of preachers in there.
Over on the East Coast, the federal case against Diddy is locked in for trial on May 5, 2025. In Manhattan, jury selection is just around the corner. Prosecutors say they've already lined up at least 5 accusers, one of them being Cassie Ventura, who famously settled her case back in 2023. They're pushing to bring in propensity witnesses, people ready to testify about freak-offs and other alleged misconduct, to show a pattern in Diddy's behavior. Christian's drama in that LA courtroom might not be the focus in New York, but it's definitely helping paint a picture. The prosecutors want the jury to see a family legacy tied to abuse for Grace. The battle's far from over. She's not just after a payout. She wants acknowledgement that powerful men cross serious legal lines. Her entire case against Christian Combs stands as a loud reminder, calling out the powerful.
Drama. Once again, facing Sean P. Diddy Combs, who's already the subject of a federal investigation. Just yesterday, Christian Combs, Diddy's 26-year-old son, was named in a new lawsuit alleging sexual assault by a woman working on a yacht in 2022. Sean Combs is being sued for premises liability as the person who chartered the yacht and for aiding and abetting his son in the alleged assault. Well, here's the deal. Right now, anything associated with P. Diddy is considered cancerous. He could be guilty of the allegations that have been levied against him. His son could be guilty of the allegations that have been levied against him. But the reality is that even if they're not guilty of such things, their name has been tainted severely. And usually something like this happens when you create enemies in the wrong places. Usually it's not just a byproduct of your act or your actions. There's something else that's going on here. But you've seen people get accused of things a lot of times. But the tsunami of things that are coming in the direction of P. Diddy and his family.
This whole saga leaves us with a ton of unanswered questions. Can Christian really clear his name after walking out like that? Will he ever break free from the stain of those Sakov allegations? And if minors were truly involved, what does that say about the kind of power and privilege that let all this slide? If you've been keeping up, don't forget to hit that like button. Subscribe for the next big twist and drop your thoughts in the comments. Does Christian's dramatic exit scream guilt? Or was it just a son trying to protect his image? Either way, we'll be here digging through court filings, sealed recordings, and every wild detail until this case reaches the final verdict. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.